Hey YouTube, doing another follow-up to this video I did earlier this month. Why do I keep doing follow-ups to this video? Because I think it's an incredibly important subject, and I think that it's one that very, very few people take to heart, and people should. And the focus on my next video, this video, and the next video after this one is on independent media sources, particularly those on YouTube. And some of the issues that arise with them. In this previous video, I talked about how to find objective news in the mainstream media outlets, your cable news and your online news and things like that, your main corporate news websites, how to find good news. But on YouTube, there's a bunch of news sources for news that have popped up. And why is that important? Well, it's because about a quarter of US adults get their news from YouTube now. And so it's becoming a very important thing that we need to also analyze the YouTube news channels and see what they're up to. And by and large, these YouTube news channels, to me, and there's some proof in this Pew Research study that I'm linking from 2020, there's proof that these guys are in many ways worse than the traditional media in terms of sensationalism and other sort of bad habits. So we'll get into all that. I'm just going to go through this article, start at the top and go through the highlights here. So almost half of the YouTube news channels are independent news sources. Close to half are focused around an individual person, so the channel name is a person, basically. Independent channels more likely to use that model. Most consumers see no problem with getting news from that site, but as we'll see, in many cases, the website has worse news than traditional media. More likely to cover QAnon conspiracy theories. So there's that. Independent YouTube channels twice as likely as traditional news organizations to produce videos with a negative tone. So there you go. There is some pretty good proof. These last two polls from Pew Research, which is a very reputable research agency, they are saying that some pretty disturbing things in terms of what's going on YouTube with news and politics. And with 25% of adults using this as a news source, this is important. A lot of Trump focus. Trump gets a lot of views, so I get that. This next section. Half of YouTube news consumers say they think that what they're watching is moderate, which the reality is definitely not the case. Not the most important. Well, that's good. At least they don't think it's the most important. More likely to be young and male. Half say they're loyal to certain shows. Could be bad because then you're stuck in a certain rabbit hole depending on which show it is. Occasionally watch things recommended by the algorithm. Looks like 7% of people will watch things recommended by the algorithm, and things that are going to be recommended by the algorithm are things similar to things you've already watched. So then you get stuck down that rabbit hole. Who rely heavily more likely to go there for facts than opinions. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that, but these videos on YouTube are helpful, largely accurate, according to those who get news there. 73% say they're largely accurate. From what I have seen, and I've been doing research on this, that is not the case, except with a few very rare exceptions. Most YouTube new consumers. Okay, well, there is problems. Okay, that's that section. There's one more section we'll go through. Mix of, yeah, we've seen some of these already. Specific personality. Okay, an overwhelming majority of YouTube news channels do not describe themselves in ideological terms. So only 12% actually talk about what their ideology is. So in other words, they're trying to put off the persona of being neutral, when in reality, that's not the case from what I have seen. It's either pretty far left or pretty far right for the vast majority of these channels that I have run across in my research. The ones that do identify, which again is only 12%, there is a right bias to it, but it's not huge. Definitely apparent though. They ask for donations, sure. And nearly all are on multiple platforms, okay. Trump, yes, they love to talk about Trump. Much more talk about QAnon, that's a little scary. Trump, impeachment. Twice as likely to produce videos with a negative tone. I think we've already seen this, or have we? I don't remember. But yeah, that's not good. Less likely to cite officials, so they're not using any kind of official sources. Less likely to cite official sources than new organizations are. Yeah. So by and large, according to the polling, and according to this was a very comprehensive study that Pew Research did. I will show you. It's from late 2020. They talk about their methodology here, and Pew always has a robust methodology, but they basically, read through this, but it was a huge sample size that they collected. They had a pretty robust method to 81 channels. Yeah, they had to have at least 100,000 subscribers. There was a lot of other criteria that they looked at. It was a pretty exhaustive process. They did this channel audit on each channel. I'm not going to go through all of that, but that was. But when I read through this, it convinced me that this is a good study. And so, in going with that, we're going to talk about. This is my next video. I finally found 4 sources that I feel comfortable putting in as news politics channels on YouTube that are independent. Not mainstream media, not on cable news, YouTube only. Well, they can be on other platforms, but YouTube being the main platform and have at least 100,000 subscribers. I can only find 4, and I think I'm going to stop there. These are the only 4 sources that I am comfortable putting out that I think are objective or neutral and have at least 100,000 subscribers. And then we're going to stop there. That's kind of where we're at. It's kind of sad when you start researching this stuff, unfortunately. We'll see you guys.